Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. My name is Eric, and this video is the second part in a tutorial series for creating a mobile app in Godot. In the last video, I just showed an overview of what the app will look like, just the general idea of what we'll be building. In this video, we're going to get started with project configuration, setting the project size for a mobile device, and outlining some of the basic structure for our project. I don't know exactly how long these videos will be. I'm going to try to keep them focused on specific features of the app or specific goals so that it will be a little easier for people to navigate in the future when they come back to the videos. But the first thing that we need to do, no matter what we do in the future, is create a new project. So I've launched Godot Engine. If you haven't launched it before, download it from, I think it's godotengine.org. I'll put a link in the description. Your project list may be blank if you pull it up for the first time, but I'm just going to come over to new project. I'm going to give it a project name. I guess we'll call this mobile app tutorial. I'm going to hit create folder. It's basically, actually, I need to find, let's see. I have a folder, Godot projects. And then I'm going to hit create folder. It's going to create a mobile app tutorial folder within my Godot projects. And then I'm going to hit create and edit. I don't know why it pulls it up on my other monitor. So here's the blank project. If you've never seen this before, we'll go over some of the highlights. I'm actually going to reorganize some things to my personal preference. If you want to do exactly what I do, you're welcome to do that. If it's easier for you the way it was, you can definitely keep that. I'm basically just clicking these little ellipses on these different, these different areas of Godot and kind of moving them because I'm not the biggest fan of the default structure. So I'm just going to move. I think that's how I generally have it set. And then I basically, these 8 squares are showing you the different, I guess you've got 4 groups on each side of this main editor window. So you could have things beside each other. If I wanted to put the file system beside the scene and import, I could totally do that and expand this out. You can do whatever you want. I think that's actually pretty powerful that you can move things around. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit these 2 little white squares here, and it'll expand my file system so I get a little bit more information. I basically get 2 views at my file system, which I think is pretty helpful. So the first thing we're going to do is create a root node. Every game, every project must have a root node that we'll use to actually load the game. We'll have, actually I should say every scene will have a root node, but our game will have a main scene identified, and it must have a root node as well. So we'll just hit 2D scene. Actually, that was pretty cool. That switched our game to 2D. I think it was in 3D to begin with. So you can either hit 2D or just create your 2D node. I'm going to go ahead and rename this to game. So we have our root node in our root scene. Now if I save this, it's going to ask us to save it. It's going to just use its name that we gave the node, .tscn, scene. We can save that. It'll pop up in our file system. I'm going to go ahead and create a couple folders in the way that I usually structure projects just to help us organize things a little bit. So if I right click here and then hit new folder, we're going to have a scenes folder. We're going to have a scripts folder, sprites, and I usually throw one in for fonts just because we'll get to that later, but essentially I like to save my dynamic fonts. And in some projects there could be many different fonts of different sizes and different actual font types and things. So I like to have that in a folder instead of having it mixed in with the scripts or scenes. So we have the game where we saved it kind of in this root folder, and we can just drag that into scenes. And now it'll be in our scenes folder right here, just to keep things a little more organized. When you create scripts and scenes, it will automatically try to save them either to the root or possibly to the scenes. I think if you try to create a script with a scene, it'll put it, or with a node, it'll put it in the scenes folder. But we'll look at that later. So a few of the things that we need to change. We need to make this into a mobile-friendly project. Right now it's just kind of set up in these default width and height. It's not really designed to go onto an iOS or Android device. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Project up here, Project Settings. I don't think we're going to have to change too many things. The first thing we need to change is under Quality, under Rendering, use Pixel Snap. I think that's it for quality. Some of these things you can change. I definitely don't know everything about all of these. Force blend over GGX. I have no idea what in the world. Well, I guess we can read, but we'll do that later. Then we need to go to display. So right now it's on 1024/600, just kind of a random desktop view. We're going to put width to 576 and then height to 1024. So this is a, I think, if I remember how I set this up, this is a 16:9 ratio. I think it works well on a lot of devices. And we'll do some things that will make sure that even if the ratio is a little bit different, that'll be okay. They'll still be able to use it. I've had some things pop up like that where someone had just an extremely long screen, but we'll go through some simulations of what would happen if your ratio is like that. So this test width and test height is essentially how our game will pop up when we're testing it, when we're debugging it. If we launch it in the engine, it will launch at whatever resolution we've set. If we launch it at this resolution, I guess it'll take a little bit longer to load, which isn't super important to us. But one thing that's kind of annoying is it's just fairly large and annoying to deal with. So we're actually going to set this to half of the actual value. So 288 and 512 for the test width and test height. And you'll see exactly what that looks like in just a second because we'll be able to launch it very soon. There are a few other things. Oh, so orientation. We're going to go ahead and change this from landscape to portrait. This won't be important when we're testing it in the engine, but it will be important when we actually either export the APK or load a debug APK on an actual device. That'll be really helpful because it's just really annoying to see it launch in landscape if we intend it to be in portrait. So two other things to change. Change this mode from disabled to 2D. And then aspect, change to keep width. Actually, I think that's everything that we need right now from the settings. So we can close this out. And you actually see that it resized, the project resized to that 576/1024. Just to see an example of what it looks like when we run the game, we're going to add a child node to the game scene, or the game node in our game scene. We're just going to add another 2D, another node 2D. So we add child node, we search for node. Here's node 2D. We're going to add that. We're going to call this background. And then under this, we're going to add a color rectangle. I'm still trying to work out how in depth I want to go with each node that we use, because I think our time will be better spent trying to get through the app rather than pausing at every single node, because there's definitely a lot to go over. And then I'll try to point out relevant videos that have to do with these specific nodes as we go through the tutorials. I hope that works. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments. Let me know kind of how much time you want me to spend on everything. But I want to make sure that we're not taking hours and hours and hours to get through this app. When it's pretty simple, I think we're going to be able to knock it out in just a few videos. But we've got this background node with a color rectangle. You can see it right here. We click on this. We're going to go to the inspector for this color rectangle node. Click on color, and then you can change the color to whatever you want. You can see it changing over there on the game view. I'm just going to make this a little bit darker than white, but not really that much. So it's got a little bit of color to it, but it's nothing special. Under the control properties of this color rectangle, we're going to change the size to equal the size of our project window. I think that's pretty straightforward. So now we've got this 576 by 1024 background, and this is what we're going to draw everything over. So you can play around with that color if you want. I'd encourage you to do that. It's going to be important to make sure that it meshes well with our button and text colors later. So let's run it. I think we can run it now. So I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to hit run. Okay, so we hit run. No main scene has been defined. We've saved this game scene, and it's the only scene we have. It's here under our scenes folder. So game.tscn, open. We set that as our main scene, and then here's our test window at that lower test resolution that we set. So if we had things going on in the game, you'd be able to play with them here. The cool thing about this is that even though it's extremely basic, that's really all you need to say that you've launched a mobile app. You could set up the Android APK export settings right now, and you could export this app onto an Android device, and you could see it live on that device in the real world outside of this game engine. And it's just so cool. I mean, it's been just over 10 minutes, and we're able to theoretically put something on a real device. We can change things about it, and we're already ready to add the actual game to it. I just think that's really exciting. I think Godot makes it really easy. I think it's pretty intuitive, and I think hopefully if this is your first experience with Godot, you're really going to enjoy it. So moving on, we're going to do a few other kind of housekeeping things, and then I'll probably bring the video to a close, and then next time we're going to try to make some good progress a lot faster. So I'm just going to throw in some other Node 2D structure, basically just parent nodes of the actual elements we'll be using. This is mostly just to help organize the game. So we're going to add quite a few Node 2Ds. We've already added background. I'm going to add another one for UI. Node 2D. I'm going to add another one for score. Node 2D. Another one for the buttons. This could probably be renamed, and if it's better to do that, we'll definitely evaluate that later. I'm kind of working off of a project that I made while I was still learning, so I'm kind of excited for this series, not only to help teach people that are beginning with Godot, but also to see where I have improved and hopefully introduce you to those improvements. Because when I was preparing for this video, I definitely saw a lot of areas that can be improved, and I'm excited to do that. So the other Node 2D here, emitters. These are actually going to be the things, if you watch the last video, we basically have enemy projectiles coming from the top of the screen. These emitters, this is where we're going to put 3 emitters to launch or create. I don't know why I'm stumbling on this. They're essentially responsible for creating the enemy projectiles. So we're basically just taking their positions and placing scenes that are going to be the projectiles. The last one we're going to add is globals. Okay, that's a problem that you'll see me do a lot. I'll type in what I'm trying to create the node as, so I'll type in globals, and then I realize, no, I actually need a node 2D, and then name it globals. So this is another thing that we're going to take a look at how I did this. I basically added my save system and global variable right here in the child structure of the main game node. I think in the very next video we're probably going to change that, but just for the sake of seeing the whole game right in front of you, we'll leave it there for now. So I've got game, background, UI, score, buttons, emitters, and globals or global variables. I don't think there's anything else I want to... Oh, there actually is one more thing I want to do. You won't be able to see a lot of it. I'm going to import my images from, or my sprites from the example project that you saw in the first video, and then I'm going to take the result of this video's project, I'm going to put it in GitHub, and I'll have it in the description for you to download. I don't want us to focus on creating images during all the tutorials. I don't think that's the best use of our time, so I want to make sure you have access to these resources to use. So I just copied them into the Sprites folder. Sprites. Okay, so I just literally copied in all of the projectile images and all of the button images that I had. I think that will be everything we need to get started in the next video. Hopefully the next one's going to go a little bit faster. I think by the end of the next video, we want to have a little bit of the UI working and definitely at least one of the difficulty versions for the game. So we should have a working game that you could export to an APK. I think that's really exciting. It's not going to take us very long at all to get something working. I hope this video has been helpful. I realize this is kind of the boring start to the more exciting stuff. I hope you'll stick with it. I hope you learned something. If you did, remember to hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment telling me what you think. For now, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.